I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. We're recording this on Friday instead of Sunday because you're leaving tomorrow to go to Switzerland
Yes, darling.
to attend the Locarno Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be your first time doing that.
This is true, yes. I mean, I've covered it from afar via screeners, but they don't have every part of the festival available to be able to do that. So I almost went in 2017, but I was not offered enough to make the journey there because it's not easy to get to.
But this time they met your diva demands.
It's not diva demands. It's just it's just being realistic. I'm not going to fly somewhere for 3 days. It takes damn near 20 hours to get to.
Yeah. Well, moving on. I realized I haven't thanked the people who sponsor us on Spotify in quite some time.
Oh,
so I definitely want to do that. To all the people who give us money every month.
Thank you.
Comes right out of their, I'm assuming, checking account.
Little Margaret
I hope
Thatcher.
It's not their savings account. But
please don't do that.
Yeah, don't spend your last on us. But for those who are able to and do, that's very sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you to all of those people. And if you would like to, you can go on Spotify and give us money every month. And we do get all of it. So Spotify is a nice place to give money.
Oh.
Next, at the opening of our review for It Ends With Us, I mentioned that we got an opportunity to meet with a family who watches our videos. But while we were speaking to them, they were sitting next to Stevie Wonder. So we got to stare at Stevie Wonder while speaking to this family. And I received many comments of people, I'm assuming trying to be funny, but saying oh, so Stevie can see. And then it took me a second to realize that I think they're taking it as he was sitting in the movie theater.
Oh, no, he was not.
Stevie. But I also said that he and his lady friend were enjoying the sun, like a couple of little lizards. No, this was outside of the theater. We were at the Century City Mall. So he was sitting, and that's an open air mall. So he was sitting outside of the theater in the sun, and it was a beautiful day. So no, I know that's a rumor. Because also I noticed, maybe because my phone knows that I've been talking about Stevie Wonder, but that video there's a video of him that I've been seeing on TikTok that is I think Lady Gaga's performing for him, and she blows him a kiss and he blows it back.
Oh.
And so people are he can't see. But our experience with Stevie Wonder would not indicate that he has the gift of sight.
Remember
intact.
George W. Bush Jr. waved at him?
Well, I bet I would too.
Well, it's we have a friend that has a deaf French pit bull. Bulldog, sorry.
A Frenchie, yeah.
A Frenchie. And
I'm constantly talking to that raggedy
every time
bitch.
I see her, I'm trying to talk to her, and I'm like, damn.
I'm saying her name knowing she can't hear me. But speaking of It Ends With Us, that review got a lot of engagement, and a lot of people were trying to relay certain facts to me. But I find a lot of what I find most curious are the differences between the novel and the book. So I'm just going to go through a few of them. One of them is a pretty big one that we didn't mention in our review, but in the movie, when we see the and this only makes sense to people who've either read the book or seen the movie, but the characters of Lily and Atlas, we see them when they're teenagers in her home watching the Ellen DeGeneres show, which is just a slight little moment. But Ellen DeGeneres plays a huge part in the book.
Really?
Yes, because all of the content, all of the stories that we're getting about Lily as a teenager are all told through letters she wrote Ellen DeGeneres. So obvious, right? So obviously they didn't include that in the movie because Ellen is not in favor currently. So, and probably because of the reaction you just had, that just seems so corny. But I had no idea. Because someone asked me, "Oh, you didn't mention Ellen," and I'm like, "Why the hell would I mention Ellen?" And then I remembered, oh, we do see them like for 2 seconds sitting on the couch while the Ellen DeGeneres show is on. But yeah, in the book, all of the flashbacks are told as you're reading it. You're reading her letters to Ellen.
Yeah, I didn't need that.
Okay, there are a couple of significant characters in the book that don't make the movie, including a lady named Lucy, who is Lily's former roommate, who works in the flower shop with her. So that character is replaced with
Jenny Slate.
And then I also thought it was odd. And part of our complaint, I know mine specifically, is like we really don't know anything about Lily. Like she just seems like a blank character.
Mm-hmm.
But in the book, she has a gay best friend named Devin.
Oh.
So we definitely don't get seeing Lily as an adult played by Blake Lively. It would seem that she's like in the witness protection program because we don't know anything about her. But the biggest thing that I harped on a lot in our review is that Blake Lively as Lily seems older than I would have expected
for her behavior.
So I think a lot of people commented that they thought I was being shady. Like it was funny, but I'm not trying to shade Blake Lively. I think she's a beautiful lady. She looks older to me than her stated age. Apparently she's 36. I thought she was in her early 40s, but she's still, you know, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm not shading her age, except that the character of Lily as an adult reads like a woman who's in her 20s and the things that she gets into and the way she.
Well, yeah, I think that's something I wish we had touched upon. And this is why I think a woman probably should have directed this and adapted the script. But a woman of, like, I just wish, if it's going to be Blake Lively in your film, she is a woman of a certain age and there's a pregnancy involved. Like there's no talk of, maybe she wants to keep this baby because she doesn't know if she's going to have the chance to have another one as a woman edging into her late 30s. It just feels like a lost opportunity to talk about authentic experiences.
That's a really good point that we forgot to mention in the video, but we talked about it after that. Yeah, on top of everything else we said, the fact that she, you know, even if she's just in her late 30s, as the movie's trying to, you know, like the director is now saying that she was intended to be like 36 or at her mid 30s, even in her mid 30s, I feel like the way she's approaching dating feels very strange. Like, I think that, you know, she doesn't need to have a man. She could be single, but the fact that she is pursuing a relationship with a man and not talking about the future seems really odd. And then, like you said, the fact that she gets pregnant and there's no mention of like, maybe she should keep it because she may not have many more chances. And
yeah, like, do I want to be tied to this abuser for forever because we'll have a child that I'm keeping with him?
Right.
But Jenny Slate does have a comment to her, like, if you decide to keep it, I'm going to be, you know, a great aunt or whatever she says to her. But I think that also part of the conversation I feel like a woman would likely have with herself or with a confidant is, maybe I should keep the child for this reason. I don't know. Just something that didn't seem so that like it's taking, it's cutting corners. I don't know. And I just feel like a woman would have been a better fit to direct this film.
Anyway, getting back to the original point was her age. In the book, Lily as an adult is 23 years old. And then the story takes place over a year and a half. So when the book ends, she's supposed to be 25. To me, that makes perfect sense.
Well, it makes sense for how she feels about her first love, the Atlas character. Like those feelings would still be very much alive and unresolved. And
but the director said that. Well, I don't know. I don't care. I didn't care enough about this movie to be asking all these questions, but I'm curious now, and I'm sure someone will respond to me. What is Ryle's profession in the book? Because what's the director's name? Justin Baldoni. He said that the reason Ryle is older is because to be like a board certified neurosurgeon. He couldn't be like in his early 20s.
Sure.
But then it's like, well, is he a board certified neurosurgeon in the book? Like, why did he have to be all that? I feel like y'all tried to make this work for you wanting to be in the movie and then having Blake Lively in it. But it doesn't really make sense, because then the whole thing about him being being in the military for 8 years and then going to medical school. Yeah, of course you have to pad on all these years, but did it need to be all that? I don't know.
Well, there's a way. It's, as a writer, there's a way to do all that.
And then I was getting messages about how problematic. What's the writer's name? Hoover.
Colleen Hoover.
I don't give a shit enough about this movie to even. I mean, I don't know what she's problematic about. I think just from very light investigation is that people have a problem with her depictions of domestic violence. I feel like, I mean, whatever. I mean, that's the story she wants to write. I don't have an opinion, except that I don't think that the movie's handled well. I didn't read the book. People were surprised that we gave it 2.5 instead of like 1. I like Blake Lively well enough.
I think that she brings something. She does something with her performance that overcomes some of those unfortunate realities of the adaptation. But yeah, I didn't hate it. I love Jenny Slate. I don't think she's well cast in this, but I see a lot worse. I see a lot worse.
But anyway, moving on to the restaurant section, I wanted to mention that a couple of weeks ago, you like ube, and then you got excited about ube like a month ago and ordered some stuff on Amazon, like ube extract. Excited. I think you saw we saw something at a restaurant or online that was like ube pancakes or something.
No, I made ube pancakes because they had that at Trader Joe's once, and then they had these delicious little ube cookies that had.
And then you had the idea that you could make some, so you ordered some products to make your own thing, and you made an ube cake, which was very good, but it didn't taste like anything. It tasted like chocolate with cream cheese frosting. So then you found a recipe for ube brownies and you made them last night, and they were so, well, I guess I can say they are so good because we still have, well, I'm assuming we have a bite left, but do we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah, so you made ube brownies. They were very good.
Yeah, delicious. Ube, taro, love all that.
I also received comments, moving on from the restaurant section, about my negative review of the Mariah Carey concert. But then, so, I mean,
well,
she's not a show person,
no,
but she's a talented singer-songwriter. But there were at least 2 questions asking, like, what are some of our favorite Mariah Carey songs?
Oh, God.
I have always liked The Roof from the Butterfly album. There's a song called Alone in Love from her very first album that when I think about it, I'll play it on repeat. Like, I'll go to the gym and for 30 minutes just play that song on repeat. Vision of Love, I always enjoy when I hear it. More modern stuff, I mean, a lot of her music to me is like catchy. So like even at the concert, it's like whatever that song, like Why You So Obsessed With Me and Shake It Off. And those are catchy songs that will get my head bobbing. We Belong Together.
Halloween Belong Together.
She has a song with Snoop Dogg called Say Something that I think is fun. And then from her most recent album, she has a song called A No No, which I think samples a Notorious B.I.G. song and he has like a verse in it. But anyway, what are some songs of hers you really like?
Well, All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Oh yeah.
Hello, my God. I guess We Belong Together. Dream Lover? No.
No.
Always Be My Baby, sure.
Oh wow. Okay.
Actually, what's that song? The song she did with Miguel? Is it Beautiful?
#Beautiful.
Yeah, I like that song.
Oh well, the other thing is Mariah had a phase where she was doing a lot of like gay dance versions, like club versions of shit. So like there's a Fantasy remix I really like.
Oh yeah, I like Fantasy.
But yeah, there are quite a few of her songs. After the concert, I was listening to a lot of her music, and I do. Speaking of her Christmas songs, actually more than All I Want for Christmas, I really like. My favorite Christmas song is Oh Holy Night
by Whitney.
Well, I think my favorite version of that song is Celine Dion. then Whitney. Mariah's up there. I also like Patti LaBelle's because her, even when she's like recording music, sometimes she sounds kind of chaotic. And then Kelly Clarkson has a nice one. But anyway,
my favorite Christmas song is "Christmas, Baby Please Come Home" by Darlene Love. But
sure, there is something in the "Sorry to This Man" section. Your reaction to that always highlights the fact that you don't want to be corrected or criticized.
No, it's not. No, I'm fine being corrected or criticized.
You're not, because you're about to go on a rant about it.
Well, I just is what I just don't like to make mistakes.
It just is what it is.
I'm hard on myself.
But anyway, I used the phrase "patty wagon," and I didn't realize that that's offensive because "patty" is a derogatory term for Irish people.
Yeah.
So as I was reading about it, I'm like, oh, that is offensive. So I apologize.
Where did you use that?
Some review where like people were thrown into a police van, and I'm like, ooh, they threw her ass in the paddy wagon or whatever. But yeah, after being told that and then understanding like what it's referencing, it's not just like I shouldn't use, or like totem pole was not the way I had used it, was not appropriate.
As Mariah would say, a no.
Yeah. So I'm learning and adding more things to my list. I'm trying to do better, y'all. Films released we didn't cover, something called Dance First.
Yeah. Gabriel Byrne plays Samuel Beckett in a film directed by James Marsh that also has Maxine Peake and the lovely Sandrine Bonnaire.
Good one.
This won Sundance, so I saw it. Directed by India Donaldson. I think it's about she's 17, goes on a camping trip. This girl with her dad and her dad's best friend, and kind of their dueling masculine egos, and it's a fine enough film. I think it exemplifies why Sundance is not my favorite, but yeah, there you have it. It's worth seeing, but it's like, to win, this is the winner of a major film festival. I don't know anymore.
Running on Empty.
Not a re-release of the River Phoenix, Christine Lottie, Judd Hirsch film, but Daniel Andre, a Mexican-American director, has this new comedy starring Keir Gilchrist and Lucy Hale. In the supporting cast is your buddy Jim Gaffigan and Jay Farrow, who I also quite like.
Lastly, Sugarcane.
This won Best Director out of Sundance this year for Julian Brave, Noise Car, and Emily Cassie. And I was asked a bunch to review it, and I just didn't get around to it. But it's a documentary that sounds really good. An investigation into abuse and missing children at an Indian residential school sparks a reckoning on the nearby sugarcane reserve.
Someone, we just got a comment. Who will win at making more bad movies, Eli Roth or M. Night Shyamalan?
I don't dislike innately either of them. I think every now and then they do something interesting, but
wow,
I don't know.
Speaking of projects of interest, something called RUR.
Yeah, Alex Proyas is back. It's been a while. I can't remember the last thing he directed. Was it Knowing with Nicolas Cage?
I don't know.
He is adapting a sci-fi classic. I think it's a 1920s story by Czech writer Karel Kapček. I'm probably butchering that name. I'm sorry, but that is interesting to me.
This past week on our Patreon, we reviewed 2 Faye Dunaway films.
Oh.
Don Juan DeMarco and Chinatown. So if you're interested, give us $5 a month. Unfortunately, there's an entry in the obituary section. Patti Yasutake.
Yeah, I think she's best known for Star Trek Generations. She's also recently in Beef last year. And she's been around for a long, long time. She was 70. She died.
Oh.
I'm sorry. She had cancer.
All right. The secret film this week was your choice. And you chose the 1989 American television miniseries, The Women of Brewster Place. It originally aired on ABC. It was a 2-night event. It stars Oprah Winfrey and was produced via her Harpo Productions. Why did you choose this?
Because I've never seen it and I've wanted to watch it for forever. And it's based on, I believe, the first book by Gloria Naylor, it reminded me watching it and looking at her other publications, kind of what Armistead Maupin did with the Tales of the City series. because she has a lot. She has the Men of Brewster Place. She has a book called Linden Hills, which is Linden Hills is referenced heavily in
In this,
in Brewster Place.
yeah.
So I'd be interested in reading these other books that were not turned into any kind of productions. I think the year after this, Oprah was in. There was it did even go a whole season called Brewster Place. There was a continuation of this that didn't really go anywhere.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
What is The Women of Brewster Place about? A multi-generational story of the lives of several Black women who call an inner city tenement home. So on Rotten Tomatoes, there are only 3 reviews. So this miniseries is not marked fresh or rotten.
That seems crazy to me.
So since we are both Rotten Tomatoes approved critics, I want to try to move the needle to make this miniseries fresh. So that means we have to have pull quotes. So I'm going to let you read a pull quote. And since this is being published on YouTube, we can officially add it to Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. A formidably staged time capsule showcasing the lives and experiences of various Black women. The Women of Brewster Place is an underrated television classic, desiring of recuperation and appreciation for its stunning cast and their tremendous characterizations.
Mine, humorous, heartbreaking, and triumphant. The Women of Brewster Place is the sort of timeless portrait Tyler Perry should strive to achieve.
Ooh, look at you. Shots fired.
This is my kind of shit. It just, I mean, it just, it feels like, I don't know, like chicken soup on a cold Sunday. Like, it's just like the perfect, I want to call it a movie.
Well, watching, because we watched it, we didn't watch it as a two evening event like all at once. It feels like actually a really well paced film.
Yeah, it's not edited like there were commercial breaks, and it just feels like a 3+ hour film. But it didn't,
a saga.
Yeah, but I really did enjoy this, and it bothers me that it's not fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Although its impact is more important than whatever Rotten Tomatoes says.
That's true, and I mean, this is a well-known television miniseries. It's not like this is completely obscure, but I find it funny that it is not referenced more. It's not held to the same standard of some of Oprah's other early work, such as The Color Purple. So
where to begin? The cast is, I think, just so amazing. You have Oprah Winfrey, Cicely Tyson, Jackée Harry, Robin Givens, Lynn Whitfield, Paul Winfield, Mary Alice, Moses Gunn, Lorenz Tate's little kid is in it. There are so many people.
Lynette McKee.
Yes, so many people. But it does feel like a saga. I'm going to try to get through this story. We didn't talk about it beforehand, so
that's true, actually,
which we never do, or we don't ever not review it first. So this is going to be a little rough. Ooh. But the story focuses on Oprah Winfrey's character. Her name is Maddie Michael. And you already alluded to this, but the location of where they are is kind of vague. They're in sort of like an urban area that maybe you could say is like Brooklyn, or... Well,
Lynn Whitfield's character talks about she disappears for a bit and says she went to New York. So they're not in New York.
So they're not in New York, but it feels like that.
It feels like, well, you could Chicago.
And then 2 of the characters who are a little more highfalutin talk about Linden Hills, which is supposed to be like a affluent Black neighborhood. So, but this location, Brewster Place, reads like Brooklyn or Harlem, maybe in like the 1950s. But anyway, Oprah, we see her as a young woman, so like maybe 20. She plays, the age range goes from, what would you say, like 20 to 70?
Yeah.
And I think, my first note was, it's funny that Oprah can play kind of convincingly a 20-year-old and a 70-year-old.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And all they kind of do is make her hair gray, and they try to change her makeup up a little bit, but she is effective in it. But anyway, we see that she is this, country girl, very religious, very sheltered, an only child, and her parents, who are played by
Mary Alice and
Paul Winfield.
She actually looks like she could be Paul Winfield's daughter.
The eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But one day, she's just out in the front yard doing laundry or whatever, and this handsome young man named Butch
Fuller, yeah.
he comes by and he's trying to get some, and he convinces poor Oprah to go for a walk and convinces her to have sex with him. It's not played out like he forced himself on her.
Oh no, he's got game.
Yeah, he just has game, and he is very handsome. So it's like, okay. And they have Oprah looking like a little simple, and he also kind of calls out the fact that she's heavy. Like maybe she should be lucky that he likes her, but he's not mean to her.
No,
he just clearly wants some.
It's a walk to remember.
So she gets pregnant, and her dad, which we can get to, beats her up. So she ends up leaving and moving with her friend, played by Jack A. Harry. So now she's out of that small town, and she spends the next, what would you say, like 30 years?
Yeah. Maybe a little less. I'm not sure how old.
Well, however old it is that she has a newborn, and then now this older boy whose name is
Basil
is like, he looks like he's 30.
Well, yeah.
Or I don't know. He's kind of, I hate to say people aren't cute, but maybe because his character is such a dimwit.
Well, it's played by Eugene Lee as an adult, and he is not styled well, but yeah.
No, and he's like kind of an ungrateful loser son. So I think that it doesn't help. But anyway, she lives in this town long enough to have this adult son, and she finds housing with a woman named Miss Eva,
played by Barbara Montgomery.
And I will say it was very confusing because Barbara Montgomery, they put her in old lady makeup akin to like the Leech Woman.
It's gravy makeup, yeah.
And I don't understand why, because whenever you see makeup like that, you think, oh, because we're going to see her as a young woman. No, she stays old the entire movie.
They just make her look decrepit.
Until we see her in the casket, she's just old. So that was weird. But Miss Eva is a really beautiful person who lets Oprah live with her rent free because she just wants company. She also has a child who she's raising, her granddaughter named Seal, who is the same age as Basil when he like as a baby. So Oprah kind of raises Seal with her own son up until Miss Eva dies. So all that time, which looks like maybe it was like 7 or 8 years, Miss Eva never charged Oprah rent. She just kept telling her, why don't you save it? So one day you can pay me when I decide how much you owe me. But of course, never had any intention of taking Oprah's money. But when Miss Eva dies, Oprah takes that money and buys Miss Eva's house. So now she's this Black woman, single mother who owns a home. Like the magnitude of that is greater than just...
Right.
But then this old raggedy ass Basil, which part of it reminded me of my own brother in that like she babied him.
She did.
And so now he's the spoiled adult who's like a freeloader. And one night or morning, he calls his mom from jail. Talking about, you got to come get me. I killed someone on accident.
In self-defense.
He
says.
And what does Oprah do? Put up her house to bail her son out.
The trial is only 2 weeks away.
And he can't wait. And so what does he do? Not like skip his court date. So of course Oprah's house is taken away from her. So that's how she ends up at Brewster Place. And that's the opening of the film. The opening of the film is Oprah narrating like her taxi cab ride to Brewster Place, which is this, they're like the projects. How does she end up there as an old woman? Because her home was taken away from her because her raggedy ass son skipped his court date. But how does she know to move there? Because Seal, the little girl she raised for like 8 years, is now like an adult woman played by Lynn Whitfield, which is so funny because Lynn Whitfield couldn't be more snatched.
Oh yeah, gorgeous.
She's just stunning. And she's in that role. Lynn Whitfield is older than Oprah.
She's older than Oprah and Jack A.
And then
they're both playing age versions at this timeline.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how good Lynn Whitfield looks. But anyway, that's how Oprah gets there. And and so for the next 2 hours and some change, Oprah is kind of like the glue that binds a lot of these characters together.
Yeah.
But we have other people. So Jackie is kind of like the character she played in 227, like this sexy woman who just wants a man to take care of her. And she kind of bounces from city to city, man to man. But when she ends up back at Brewster Place with Oprah, it's kind of like her last man. She had to leave him because he wasn't shit.
And she's getting a little old for this game now.
But yeah, she's getting a little too many rings around that trunk. So she's finding it hard to find a man. So she's just settled in Brewster Place. She does meet a man at some point, which we'll get to. Then we have Robin Givens, who also is stunning.
Playing a character, she's named herself Kiswana.
Yeah, her actual name is Melanie, and her mother, played by Cicely Tyson, is like a highfalutin Black woman who lives in Linden Hills and doesn't want her daughter because Robin Givens, with her new name Kiswana, who's dating Leon, whose name is Abshu, I think Mohammed or something. He's also changed his name, but they are for the people, and they're trying to be like grassroots community action. Leon's character gets a grant from the city, and for the arts, and so which we'll also talk about, but he puts on a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream for the children, which I thought was a really beautiful scene. But that's her struggle, is that she's trying to uplift the community, and she's trying to start a
tenants association in Brewster Place.
Exactly. We have, who's the one with all the kids? Oh, Phyllis Yvonne Stickney.
Cora Lee, yeah.
Child, she plays Cora Lee. And when I say, we'll get to it, but I really feel like Tyler Perry wishes he could write something like this. Because I feel like the way they handle Cora Lee is that she is a single mother with 6 kids.
I think something like that, yeah.
Just running around crazy because she can't really manage all those kids. But she's not a caricature. She actually has some dimension. And with all of these characters, we start, I really did fall in love with all these characters. And I think they really handled Cora Lee in particular with a lot of tenderness. She's just not this stupid woman having all these kids she can't take care of.
What's the term they used to use? Welfare queen?
Yeah, she doesn't come across that way. And then there's a really beautiful moment at the end where because she and Robin Givens kind of had it out in the beginning, which we'll get to, but in the end, she and Robin, with all of her kids, Cora Lee's kids, go to that production of Shakespeare. Oh gosh. It is melodramatic in that there are some really traumatic things that happen.
Yeah.
Specifically, Glenn Plummer is in the film playing a character named Cece, and he's part of a gang that
includes Mike Tyson in a cameo.
That includes Mike Tyson, who doesn't have a speaking part, but it's Mike Tyson. He looks menacing. But they're like these little hoodlums who are infecting this area. And the reason that they're congregating there is because where Brewster Place is located, we get some backstory as to the social politics of this area, because the city was trying to curb traffic or direct traffic. And so they had to choose an area to block off a street. And because Brewster Place is filled with lower income Black people, they got the short end of the stick. So where Brewster Place is, you have this main thoroughfare that comes to a dead end. So then it's become this place for criminal activity, gangs, trash.
And that the sign that it sticks out on the wall, that's supposed to be the metaphor of this place, right?
Yes. So Glenn Plummer is sort of the leader of this gang that is a nuisance in this area. But then we also have 2 lesbians who move into Brewster Place. And they are played by
Paula Kelly, who is the only member of this cast that was nominated for an Emmy, which is
kind of crazy.
Which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
And Lynette McKee, who is stunning.
Yeah. So they play a lesbian couple. They're professional women. They move in and they have sort of a tragic story. Then we have the handyman, Ben, played by Moses Gunn.
Moses Gunn, yeah.
And he has a tragic scene at the end, but he also has a really sweet scene with Lynette McKee, because there is a tenants association meeting where there is this old woman,
Miss Sophie, played by Olivia Cole, who I believe won an Emmy for Roots.
And Miss Sophie is, she's a mean old nasty lady.
Yeah.
All she does is complain and sit there and judge everyone. And for some reason, she is especially bothered by the lesbians. And she causes a scene at this tenants meeting, basically saying like she shouldn't, like their nasty lifestyle shouldn't be forced upon her. Thankfully, most of the tenants basically like run her ass out of there. Like, girl, we have bigger fish to fry.
Including Robin Givens, yeah.
And Robin Givens and Jackie Harry
yeah.
are the main ones defending the lesbians. Well, mainly just pointing out how problematic the old lady is, more so than defending the lesbians. But it's after that meeting that Lynette McKee leaves, and Moses Gunn approaches her because she's clearly upset, and he offers her some tea and tells her a story that I found very touching, because I think that this is how a lot of people have to connect the dots. And I think in 2024 standards, people would be like, oh, you're not going to compare me to whatever. But because I have a cousin who told me once, this was like maybe like 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, basically that he was okay with gay people because his son is autistic. And so he knows what it is to be different. And, you know, I feel like at first it's like, I'm not neurodivergent. I don't have any sort of cognitive delay.
But again, nothing wrong with that either. But
whatever route you have to take to recognize that we're all built from the same parts,
we're all red inside, okay,
and we're all pink inside, and that we all deserve to be treated equally. Whatever it takes you to get there, I'm okay with. And in this story, Moses Gunn's character tells Lynette McKee that he has a daughter who he says was crippled, and he would see how people would treat her and how that affected her. And so he says that's why he felt a warmth towards Lynette and basically wants to be her friend. But oh my gosh, there's just, should I just start going through my notes and then you can add to it all? Okay, I thought a really powerful moment is someone asks Oprah's character, like, why is your last name Michael and not Michaels?
Buck asked her that, yeah.
And you mean Butch?
Or sorry, Butch.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yes, Butch asks her, and she basically tells a story about like how her great-grandfather was a slave and he was hard of hearing. So on the plantation, they would always have to call his name twice, Michael. And so when he was sold and they asked what his name was, someone just said Michael.
No, when the freedom came.
Oh, when the Census Bureau came, they just said Michael. So that's how his last name ended up being Michael. I thought that was powerful. Okay.
The scene with Paul Winfield and Mary Alice.
Oh my God. That's my next note. So it's very tense. So after Oprah, we don't see her having sex with Butch, but we see them sort of like making out or starting to make out. So then we cut to her sitting at the dinner table with her parents looking despondent. So clearly she's pregnant. And as the audience is like, did she just tell them or is she about to tell them? And we find out that she has told them. The dad has gone mute. Like he won't even speak to her. But the mother is being very reassuring, telling her that, you know, God, there's nothing in the Bible that says that you can't have a baby and there's anything wrong with it. And, you know, it's the fornicating that's the sin. But now that you're pregnant, this is a beautiful thing. And I love you. So that was nice.
And just don't tell your daddy who the father is.
But whatever you do, please don't tell your daddy that Butch got you pregnant, because he's going to end up in jail for killing that man. So then all of a sudden, her dad says, come on out here. I want to talk to you. I've been thinking about it. Because we're told that Oprah's been dating this boy.
Well, there's this man that's been coming around named Fred.
And he's kind of a simple man.
They call him Dead Fred.
Yeah, he's like Simple Jack. So the dad is like, well, you could do worse. And he's a nice, God-fearing man. So it's great. And Oprah has to tell him, that's not who got me pregnant. And her dad loses his shit and starts beating her with a damn broom.
He breaks the broom
on her ass because she won't tell him who the baby daddy is. But just it made my heart warm, because it reminded me of my own mother in this instance, where
Mary Alice,
her mother grabs a damn shotgun.
Well, first she jumps on his back. Oh
yeah, she physically like assaults him, and then when she can't get his ass off their daughter, she grabs a shotgun and shoots a lantern out, which like bloodies Paul Winfield,
Mm-hmm.
and tells him, like, if you hit my child again, I'll meet your soul in hell.
I've never seen, because Mary Alice always seemed kind of like
Stuffy.
stuffy and dry, and a lot
Yeah.
of the stuff I've seen her in, and this is the most vibrant I think I've seen her.
So that made me emotional because I could kind of relate to that. And then we cut to Oprah like getting on the bus to leave, and then we see that she ends up with Jack A. But then immediately Jack A is like, "Well, girl, I got to get out of here. I'm gonna go to Harlem because there's a man out there, and like there are all these rich, successful, intelligent, professional black men out there, and I'm gonna go get one." And Oprah says, "I'm not leaving. I'm gonna stay here and take care of my baby." So we see her work as a hairstylist, but she's having trouble with daycare, and her boss, who
is an unfriendly woman.
Yeah, who I know. I always think of her as, and I'm now forgetting her name, but she's the lady on the Martin show who had to get the pedicure. But anyway, watching Oprah walking the streets with her baby in a suitcase, trying to find a place to live, that made me very emotional because that also made me think of my own mother and having to carry me around.
She does that because she wakes up one night, the baby's bottle's on the bed, and there's a rat.
There's a damn rat
drinking on the bottle. And it reminded me of Oprah and Viola Davis when Viola
when she interviewed
a memoir
her,
about talking about the rats that they had to grow up with, and Oprah being like, I remember that too. And it's like, oh my God.
I know. It just was too much for me.
The scene where she's walking around and being turned away, one, because she has a baby at black establishments, and then of course white people aren't helpful. When she gets kind of just called randomly on the street by Barbara Montgomery, it reminded me very much of Imitation of Life, which you're familiar with the Lana Turner version and Juanita Moore, but there's an earlier version with Louise Beavers and Claudette Colbert. But what always bothered me about those, it's always like the white woman who's shown as kind of superior, and I like that
in a savior,
but in a way that I don't know, it's just hard to reconcile. Even though both versions of those are good and well worth watching, this obviously doesn't feel like that at all.
No, and when we meet Miss Eva, because poor Oprah is walking with a suitcase and her baby, and it's hot, and clearly her feet hurt, and she looks scared, like she doesn't know where she's going to sleep that night. When you hear Miss Eva, because she kind of calls her like, "Girl, what you doing out here?" and like, "Come over here and talk to me." And then she says, "Get your ass in here and sit down." And then she feeds her, and like it's almost like you can exhale. She's going to be fine because this woman's going to help her. And then you also, it's very well written because as the audience, it's understood that Miss Eva is a lonely woman. She's also raising her little grandchild, and her house is kind of a wreck. So immediately you recognize like she needs help here too. So I can provide you with home and a place to sleep and food to eat if you can help me keep this shit clean, take care of this baby for me. So that was, the opening is so like it's such a hard start. So it just felt like such a relief to see that Oprah Maddie is going to be okay. But man, when we meet her older son, when we meet her son as an adult, and we realize he ain't shit.
Yeah.
And then he is trying to get money from her, telling her some bullshit story. You already know like he's a loser. And then when they start talking about bail and he's rude to her, it reminded me again of my own family, things I've witnessed where it's just like, oh, like I know my mom's gonna, I know she's gonna do what it takes to help her child, but knowing that Oprah's good, you already know she's going to lose her house.
Yeah.
The instant she posts.
Because we got to get to Brewster Place. And then
because we already know she ends up at Brewster Place. I was already so upset for her. But when she gets to Brewster Place and she seems so sad, and then Lynn Whitfield now is.
I like when because Lynn Whitfield at this point has a baby girl of her own. And there's a scene where she's hung up all of.
She's trying to decorate Oprah's apartment. She
decorates Oprah's apartment, and Oprah's like, "Why are you bothered about my apartment?" She's like, "Well, I know you don't really like being here." And
right.
It's like, oh.
Yeah. Okay, Cora Lee. One of her children is played by Lorenz Tate.
Yeah, who looks, you immediately know it's him.
Oh, he looks like just a miniature version of himself.
Yeah.
But he's eating out of the trash, and Robin Givens sees it.
He's eating a donut.
Yeah, and she is like appalled. So she grabs him and takes him to his mother. and confronts Coralie, like, your son is eating out of the trash. And I thought this scene was written so well because at first you think like, this mom ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
Her kids running around, but she goes, oh, I have food in the house. This boy's addicted to sugar, so he tries to find sugar in the trash because I won't give it to him because the dentist says it's ruining his teeth. And I thought that was such a gag because it's like she actually does know what's going on, and she does take care of her kids to a degree. Like, she takes them to the dentist, and she's refusing to give him things that are bad for him, and that's why he's doing this. I just thought that the writing of all of these characters, which I guess we can probably start injecting some Tyler Perry commentary, is this is what good writing looks like when telling similar stories. Because I feel like Tyler Perry wishes that some of his shit comes off like I'm sure he's watched this miniseries. And it's like, the reason that your stories don't come off like this is because you lean too much into ridiculous shit and caricatures.
Yeah.
And you don't try to make these characters, these people, seem like actual people.
There's no lived-in experience in a lot of Tyler Perry's films.
No, it's just like, oh, she's the loud one, she's the ghetto one, she's the violent one, she's the poor one, she's the rich one, she's the pretty one, she's the ugly one. Like, they're so flat.
They're one-dimensional.
It's like, if you really care about these people, if you say that you love the community and then why don't you give these characters something for us to love?
The gravitas they deserve. I mean, you and I have talked a lot about Tyler Perry amongst ourselves too, but he doesn't do any research. And you don't have to live lives to have lived a life to write a good character.
No.
But sometimes you got to do some research. Speaking
of Tyler Perry Productions, I have to say, everyone's hair in this movie looked really good.
Yeah.
Everyone's hair was laid. There were very few wigs.
Jackie, even when they put like making her look older, I think looks fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the costume design, the hair, the makeup was a little sometimes like, and I don't know, it's like,
well, it was for television in 1989.
Exactly, and we're watching it in HD on a 4K TV, but it's, I think the hair situation is top notch in this movie.
When Lynn comes back and she's got that short hair, she looks really good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, in that red and white,
even
strawberry social dress.
Paula Kelly's got the more severe look that kind of looks like a 90s girl group.
Oh, let's talk about that, because it's clearly like, I don't know what, like, is this supposed to be the 60s? Because Robin Givens and Paula Kelly give 90s.
Well, yeah.
And then I do have to say that the reason my pull quote, I say that it's timeless is because I feel like watching this miniseries yesterday I felt like this would totally the issues that are raised and the way they're handled feels modern.
Well, there's so much that hasn't really changed too.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But then it's so crazy that something that is set in the 60s was written in the early 80s,
I think the book was published in 82,
and then made in the late 80s, feels way more modern to me than Tyler Perry films from 2015 to 20 before the pandemic. Those string of films, this feels more modern than that in its presentation and the characterizations, in the subject matter. I mean, even the fact that they're having conversations about actually some really meaningful conversations about lesbians.
Yeah, like
in 1982 and 1989,
two black lesbians in 1989. Well, and I think we've neglected to mention the director of this is Donna Deitch, who is a white woman, but her previous film was Desert Heart, which is a queer classic, and if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. But that's about two white women, and is a period drama, and I believe it's part of the Criterion Collection. I'd like to believe if this were to be remade now, it would not be a white woman directing, but back then, I think, but in 1989 there was only one black woman that had a feature, and that was Losing Ground, and she died of cancer.
Well, since I mentioned it, we get the two lesbians walking to first moving in, and the residents kind of looking at them like, oh, and mainly not because they're lesbians, but because they're really pretty and they're wearing professional clothes. So it's like, well, what y'all doing here? But then the old woman, played by
Olivia Cole.
She is the one who first realizes, like, oh, they're lesbians, they're sinning. Well, imagine all the nasty things they're doing in there. And Oprah and Jackie are like, chill, like, stay out those people's business.
Well, and Miss Sophie happens to be the one who has a direct view into their apartment.
Right. But after the situation where Lynette is called out at the tenants meeting, we get a scene where Oprah is doing Jackie's hair.
It's a very interesting scene.
It's very interesting. And it actually was, I mean, I thought pretty profound, because first Oprah starts by saying, like, I just don't really understand that. Like, it just doesn't seem right. And Jackie is the one who says, well, I don't know, like, in my travels, because I've lived a lot of big cities, like, there are a lot of women like them. And she goes, well, I don't understand. And then Oprah's like, well, I don't understand what's wrong. Like they just love women, right? And Jackie is explaining, well, they love women like how men love women, or how women would love men, except with each other. And it's clear Oprah's not fully understanding, because she is a very sheltered lady and is all about church. But then she says something that I was not expecting, because she goes, well, I've had women love me better than men. And I love women more than I've loved men. And then she starts saying, like, I love Seal, and I love you, and I love Miss Eva. So it was watching this very quick sort of evolution of a character recognizing that something that was sort of taboo maybe is demystified. Like, she was able to get there on her own, basically.
Well, it's also because Maddie is a woman, is a character that is open to others.
Yes.
And is a very giving person.
Yeah.
So I think that has something to do with that even making sense there. But if you think even just 5 years earlier, Spielberg butchered out most of the lesbianism from Color Purple.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It feels, I don't know, like almost shocking to see this in 1989 on TV.
Yeah. Okay, we need to talk about Lynn Whitfield's baby daddy, played by Moesha's daddy,
William Allen Young. Yeah.
Yes, he ain't shit either.
Nope. Oh, the men in this. Well, Leon doesn't have much to do, but the men are so fragile. My God.
Yes, but Lynn Whitfield's man, like when we first meet her, Seal, her man's gone. He just left her with this baby, and she doesn't know where he went. And then one day he just shows up, and of course Lynn takes him back, and then she gets pregnant by him again. And he blows up on her. Like, how am I supposed to get ahead with you and these two kids? And it's like, fool, you did this to me. Like,
he lost his job.
Yeah, but I also could relate to this too, about a father feeling like clearly they didn't want this. Like, this is not the version of the life that they wanted. And then Lynn gets an abortion. And I thought that was a very powerful scene, because she comes back and tells Oprah that she had an abortion, basically.
And I don't want to talk about it further.
And Oprah says, okay. And that was very powerful to me, because sometimes what people need is support, like silent support,
to be heard,
and like a witness to their experience, as Maria Bamford would say. So I thought that was handled very well. Okay, Robin Givens, her mom, Cicely Tyson, shows up.
She's only in one scene, and it's fantastic.
It's fantastic. Yeah. First of all, Cicely looks amazing, and they look like they could be kinfolk.
They do look like mom and daughter.
It's mainly the mouth and the teeth, and the eyes. I mean, they really do look. Although, I was going to say grandmother, but no, they look like they could be mom and daughter.
I think Cicely looked pretty good here.
Oh, she looks great. Her outfit is popping, and she looks expensive, and she's clearly. There was a really powerful scene, because Robin Cicely's mad because Robin changed her name from Melanie to Kiswana, and Cicely's mad because she named her after her grandmother, and she's offended because she's like, you're not proud of your grandmother, and then recounts like what her grandmother had to go through to get to where her family is today, and then you don't take pride in that, so you pick this name that has nothing to do. Because then I think it was important for Cicely's character to say, like, she's half indigenous, and then that like she gave her lineage. So then now you want to pick this name that has nothing to do with who we are.
She does it after Robin Gibbons says something really nasty that you would not say, that you should not say to your mama.
No.
Like, it's like, oh my God.
And then punctuates it with, and a husband with a 5-figure income and a house in Linden Hills, which made me laugh because it's like, oh, if only a 5-figure income could be luxury.
Right.
In this day and age. But yeah, I thought that Cicely's contribution to the story was quite powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to Coralie, she and Robin Givens have a really interesting exchange where we understand why Coralie has so many children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because she connects it to her growing up and loving this baby doll,
mm-hmm.
and loving the feeling of having a new baby.
A new baby, yeah.
And it was really illuminating.
Well, it's and then she likes them when they're babies and don't talk back and need her for everything. And then when they, you see how she, Coralie speaks to the other kids that's kind of ambivalent and a bit, like, it's distressing to hear her because she calls the kid what does she call one of the little boys?
Dumbass.
A dumbass,
which comes into play later on.
Which I thought was a nice playback. It was,
mm-hmm. But and it's so easy to criticize women like Coralie, but it's also like, first of all, if you don't have the ability to carry a baby in your womb, then you don't really know what that desire would feel like. And then for people who have difficulty becoming pregnant, it's like, that I would imagine like how frustrating it would be for someone who wants to be pregnant and they're having difficulty. And
mm-hmm.
then you think like, well, if you sort of invert that to someone who is able to very easily get pregnant, it would almost be like addictive,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought her character was handled with a lot of care, because it definitely, not that I couldn't have already formed that opinion on my own, but I think seeing it really reinforced this idea of like, we're so quick to be harsh on people who we sort of put in that category mm-hmm. of like, you're irresponsible with your uterus. And it's like, well, I don't know, if you don't know what it's like to be able to have a baby or have difficulty doing so, and that very strong feeling. So yeah, that's her drug, is like this new baby smell. Like, it's like how I feel about the new car smell. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We have to talk about Lynn Whitfield's her daughter dying.
Oh my God.
There was a kind of a long streak in the miniseries where it wasn't as sort of traumatic, and then
bam.
Moesha's daddy comes back home, and Lynn is fighting with him because he's like, well, I got a job in Maine, and it's clear he's lying. He's mm-hmm. just trying to like leave her again. And so she like leaves the baby in the living room to chase him into the bedroom to beg him not to leave. And while she's doing that, the baby's left unattended, and we see a cockroach crawl out of an electrical outlet. And the little girl, who looks like 2.5, 3 years old,
yeah, she's little,
she grabs a pair of metal scissors, and in attempting to stab the cockroach, she shoves it into the electrical outlet, which electrocutes her, and she dies. Mm-hmm. And then we get this, just like heartbreaking segment where Lynn Whitfield's just gone catatonic.
Yep. Like,
she's sick, she's not eating or speaking. But then there's a really emotional moment where Oprah just decides, like, not on my watch, and basically, loves her back to health. Like, just
yes, and then Seal leaves, like, in the middle of the night,
which was, at first I felt so bad for Oprah, like,
but it was something she needed to do.
But then I realized it was something she needed to do, and then when she returns at the end, it's like, clearly she needed this.
Yeah.
She needed a fresh start. And what was really keeping her there? Her man left her. Her baby died.
Yeah.
She aborted another baby, which she brings up at a point that she feels so bad. I thought the moment where Robin Givens goes to pick up Coralie and her 6, 7 kids to go to the
play,
the production of Midsummer Night's Dream, was really cute, because Cora got them kids together.
Mm-hmm.
She cleaned them up, put them in cute clothes, did their hair, and told them to shut the hell up and walk single file to this theater. And I really love the moment when she and her kids walk outside and everyone looks at them like, Whoa.
Somebody says, is it Easter already?
Is it Easter already? But I thought the production of A Summer's Night Dream was really cool because Leon presents it like you don't. I love that even though he has a small contribution to the story, I thought it was very effective because he seems to really understand the importance of the art, but that it needs to be accessible. And so instead of trying to do something that's like, I really love that they didn't make it like, oh, we're going to do like this hood version of, no, they just kind of made it more modern and something that the kids would connect with.
And with a little music.
With music and, humor. I'm not super familiar with that play, so I don't know if there is humor, but they made it.
Yeah, it's a comedy.
Oh, okay. So they just amp it up for like the kids, and then the kids get really excited about it, and specifically Cora's kids. I thought that was really sweet.
Well, there's a character that's an ass, and the one little kid's like, "Is that what I'm gonna look like? Because you keep calling me an ass."
Yeah, there's a character who's wearing like a donkey head, and then he asks his mom, "Am I gonna be that?" And she doesn't say no. She says,
you see her realize like what she's
the effect she has on these children, and that she probably needs to do better. That was a really sweet moment. Okay, Oprah loves church, and she's trying to drag Jack Gay's sinful ass to church. And
who wants none of it?
A really good scene is they have a visiting preacher at the church, and Jack Gay thinks he's cute. I thought he was not cute.
I agree.
Well, not for her, because she's like still fly as hell, but she's desperate.
She's wearing all red
at church, in
Jezebel
this
red
fitting with like off the shoulder number. But she pushes up on the preacher, and he is very receptive.
Oh yes,
and he takes her back to a hotel. They have sex, and the next morning he's like, "Where do you want me to drop you off?"
Not even the next morning.
You're right. It's the same night.
Yeah,
he just drops her back off. And, she's all ruffled. Her hair's all crazy. And then Oprah, it's like late at night, and Oprah's waiting by the door because they live together. And because when Jackie left with the preacher, she was mad at Oprah, saying like, "I thought you were different than all these other bitches who judge me all the time. But here you are doing the same thing, and you'll see, I'm going to marry him and you won't have to worry about me." But then when she comes back with her tail between her legs in the walk of shame, I thought it was a really sweet moment that Oprah, she stayed up late not to gloat, but because she was worried about her friend. And then she was playing some of Jackie's like secular worldly music, kind of as like extending an olive branch.
She say, "Your sin living music. I had to see what you like about this."
Yeah. And so then it's like, the power of friendship and the power of community. Like,
but she had a scene like that with Barbara Montgomery too, where they're arguing about how she coddles her son, and it seems they get into a pattern of arguing where she's like, "Well, I'm going to leave then."
I would say the final act of the miniseries really revolves around the two lesbians,
which I think and it's times have changed a bit, but you and I have been together 16 years, and to be a gay couple, a queer couple in a space where there's no one else like you, and you're renting from people that don't agree with your existence, like it really does have an effect on you mentally, and it causes a lot of extra unnecessary tension on a couple, and you can see that happening between these two women here. Because I remember when you and I first started moving to places, and the way people would react renting to a gay couple, circa 2008. But I felt that a lot in how they are trying to navigate that and keep their relationship alive despite everyone around them wanting them to wither.
Yeah. There's a really good scene where, because like you mentioned, God, these character names, I'm losing them all. Olivia Cole, her
Miss
unit,
Sophie.
Miss Sophie is across the way from Paula Kelly and Lynette McKee. So she can see in their window. And one day, Paula Kelly has had it. And she's in the middle of making meatloaf. And she starts throwing the ingredients at Olivia Cole's window. And that's when Lynette McKee walks in like, "What are you doing?"
Right before she's about to throw the hamburger meat.
And I thought that was a funny moment because she goes, "Not the hamburger meat. That shit is $3 a pound."
She goes, "I don't care how mad you are."
And then they have a light moment where they just like sort of rejoice and they're hugging. And so prior to that, we see that they would always pull down their blinds
Mm-hmm.
so no one could see them. But in this instance, they leave the blinds open, so it forces Olivia Cole to watch them.
Well, then Olivia Cole closes her blinds.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're so bothered, you cover up.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was powerful. Of course, things go south because Paula and Lynette get into a little argument, and
Well, it's funny because Paula wants to go visit
to a gay bar.
because a couple that's a friend is having a birthday, and Lynette is going through that thing. I think a lot of queer people can relate to is I am what I am, but I am also kind of rejecting myself. There's that self-loathing that rears its head. Like, I don't want to be called any kind of slur. I'm rejecting stereotypical behavior that the majority finds abhorrent.
Well, what's interesting about that is that Lynette McKee's character is basically saying, like, I'm not gay, like I'm me, and I just happen to be that. In the same way that Cicely Tyson, when she's talking to Robin Givens, is basically saying, I'm not black. Like,
it just is what it is.
It just is what it is. And, I don't know that I fully agree with all of the sentiments that were said, but I think that it was powerful that we have this black woman and then this lesbian sort of saying similar things.
Well, because she's like, I'm not different than anyone else. And Paula Kelly's telling her, well, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Not because we're making ourselves different. It's they are.
But they get into an argument. So like later that night, Lynette gets dressed like, okay, we can go to the gay bar. And Paula doesn't want to go.
And meanwhile, there's a block party going on.
And meanwhile, there's a big block party going on. So Lynette leaves the house, but then as she's about to get on the bus, she decides not to go.
Mm-hmm.
But then she realizes, well, she doesn't want to go back home just yet. So she goes and knocks on Moses' door, the handyman.
Ben. Mm-hmm.
Ben. Because they become friends, and I'm assuming she was going to have some tea and chit chat until she's ready to go back home. But he's not home because he's at the block party. So who finds her? Glenn Plummer, and he
previously had already threatened her.
And so he snatches her up and drags her to that wall, like that cul-de-sac, and brutally rapes her.
Mm-hmm.
So she is like bloodied, bruised, damn near unconscious, laying in like near the dumpster. And then Moses Gunn goes to that area to get boxes because Oprah had asked him to get boxes to sort of pack up for the party. And he sees her and he's been drinking. So he's kind of, stumbling, and he's sort of like, I can help you. And of course, Lynette is in shock because she's been assaulted and she's not seeing clearly. And she brutally attacks Moses Gunn with a 2x4.
She damn near kills this man.
Damn near kills him. And then guess who finds them? Oprah. And as much as I love this movie, I think the most unintentionally funny moment of this film, and I almost recorded it, but I didn't want to make fun of her, is watching Oprah try to run to go tell everyone. You've never seen someone run like this.
It looks like she doesn't do that a lot.
It looks like she's never run before.
So, it's not very graceful, but she's panicked.
But this causes a chain reaction because then it starts to rain on the party. And then, of course, the ambulance comes to take Lynette, and Paula goes with her. So now it's like everyone's traumatized by the events, and Oprah has had it. And she goes and grabs like a tire iron and starts knocking down the wall, which they had talked about before. Robin Givens had said,
she tells Oprah, why don't you do something about it?
Yeah, like if you don't like it, you should do something about it. And Oprah tells her, well, I'm old and
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And you're young, so you think it matters. When you get old, you'll realize. So then Robin Givens tells her, well, Oprah takes the initiative, pouring in the rain after she's witnessed this attack. She starts chipping away at the wall with her tire iron, and then everyone else starts doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually tear a big hole into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of the series. So
yeah, pretty good.
I would definitely look for. You said that there was like an extension.
There's a 1990. I don't know if it's a. I think it's only one season. It's just called Brewster Place,
I would definitely watch that.
which a large number of the cast members are returning, including Oprah,
Oh,
I believe. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like there are so many great writers who have material that is begging to be adapted.
yeah.
And Gloria Naylor, I think, is one of them. But it was such a treat to watch this again. It's been on my radar forever, and usually it's a length thing. Like, when do we have a 3-hour block of time? Sometimes to watch this. But if you haven't seen this, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I think it's like the perfect like Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
What would you give it?
oh, yes, obviously I have to give a score. I thought it was excellent. I would give it 4 out of 5.
Same, 4 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, not that I love remakes, but there are just so many great roles for Black women. Like, this could be remade too. And I would love to see there's the whole saga of stories from this author.
Before we remake The Women of Brewster Place, I would,
she has Lyndon Hills.
yeah.
Let's see what Lyndon Hills look like.
Yeah, Gloria Naylor's other works could be adapted. And she's still oh no, she died.
She's dead. So are a lot of these cast members from the original. Donna Deitch, strangely, also, well, not strangely, but she directed a couple episodes of Greenleaf, which of course reunited Oprah and Lynn Whitfield.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No.
Ta-ta.